This is Mike, and I am the Sports History Collector. Today's episode is Athletes at War, Volume 11, World War II, featuring baseball's Gus Zernial. I hope you'll enjoy it. Gus played baseball from 1949 to 1959 with the White Sox, the A's, both Philadelphia and Kansas City, and ending his career with the Tigers. In those years, Gus amassed a .265 batting average and 237 home runs, leading the American League in both homers and RBIs in 1951. A very fine baseball career indeed, but it was prior to his Major League debut that Gus contributed most to our great country. Gus enlisted in the Navy and spent 25 months in the Pacific on 5 battleships, with his duties including being a loader for an anti-aircraft guns, something his 6'1", 180-pound body could do fairly easily. But it was as a radio operator aboard the ship that was his main duty. On one of his ship's missions, they set off with a convoy from San Francisco to the China-Burma-India theater with supplies. Now, there are a lot of war stories that are interesting because of the action, but then there are some that are interesting because of what might have been. This is one of those. Well, you know what? Let's let Gus tell you himself.
You would listen for 4 hours to signals, and they would warn ships in certain areas to be alert of submarines and stuff like that. And only a couple of times did we get alerted, and we got caught in the Indian Ocean. Japanese had a ship they called a Q-boat. It looked like a cargo vessel, but they could drop the sides. And of course they had big surface guns that could blow you right out of the water from over the horizon. And we were going into Calcutta with a load of P-40s in crates.
They knew the Q-boat had a speed advantage and the firepower to sink them, but the camouflaged Japanese ship just kept circling and never approached.
When he circled us, we wondered why he didn't come in. And we had no idea because we stayed on all day and all night, and the next day he was gone.
The crew remained puzzled until docking at Calcutta, when it was learned that long before they ever produced heroics in the skies over China, those disassembled P-40 Warhawks packed a pretty good punch inside the crates, too.
But what saved our lives was that we had those crates, and they apparently thought we were a counter Q-boat, that we were trying to suck him in and blow him out of the water, and that's why he didn't come in.
Gus's tour of duty ended in October of 1945. He went into the Navy as a 6'1", 180-pound leadoff hitter and came out a 6 foot, 2.5-inch, 210-pound power hitter. He spent a few years in the minors until he got a chance with the White Sox in 1949. Gus Zernial, thank you for your service. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't relay another story that happened to Gus during spring training of his rookie season. Excuse me. Seems the White Sox and Cubs were playing each other for spring training on Catalina Island, just off of California. Hollywood had a young starlet that they wanted to do a photo shoot with and thought a baseball thing would be great. So it was in the spring of 1949 that Gus and a couple of other players participated in a photo shoot with the then fairly unknown Marilyn Monroe. A couple of years later, Gus went to a charity game with a recently retired Joe DiMaggio when Joe asked about her. Gus still had the PR department's contact info and passed it on to Joe. The rest is history. Later on, Joe would not speak to Gus for the rest of their lives, supposedly because Gus had told a reporter that he had been responsible for getting Joe and Marilyn together. Joe would later say when asked that Marilyn would never go for a bush leaguer like Gus. Seems pretty harsh and petty considering Gus only told the truth. Or maybe there was more to the story, like Gus and Marilyn had dated and Joe was jealous. We'll never know for sure, but it's just another case of Joe DiMaggio showing his real character. Here I have for my collection a nicely autographed 1952 Bowman of Gus Zernial. The centering on this one is great, and so are the colors, but what I like best is the batting pose. A lot of times, cards like this will show a batting pose and it looks like the player might have popped up the ball. Not this one. Seems no doubt that old Gus parked this one in the center field seats. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story of Gus Zernial, and I'll talk to you soon.
Friday. crust of bread, but oh, do I will. Seldom